Hi everyone, Byron Martin here at Logie's Greenhouses. Of the many plants we grow at Logie's, one is an Australian tree or bush called Grevillea. And this is in the Protea family, which generally are a little difficult to grow in terms of containers, particularly here in the Northeast. But the Grevillea actually thrive in containers. And there's a couple little tricks to make them grow that way, and I'll share that with you. Here we have a shrub Grevillea. This is called Robin Gordon. It's a hybrid. It's well known in Australia as a landscape plant, but also does very well as a container plant. And you can see the color on these is it's got a orange and kind of pinkish colors with yellows. These colors would intensify more if we were out in full sun, so the greenhouse diffusion actually mutes them a little bit. But the plant literally is never out of bloom here at Logie's. There's always flowers coming, even in the dead of winter. You can see all these buds forming along the stems here. And as long as we give it highlight, that means full sun, and although greenhouses in the winter don't have as much sun as we'd like, they still will be very productive in terms of flower production. There are many species of this. There's a tree, which is the silky oak, which is Grevillea robusta, that turns into a very large tree, much like our maples and oaks here in New England. And then there are some miniature ones, which actually form shrubs. This one is actually budding up for us. This is a small variety called Grevillea thellemaniana, and you can see the buds are just forming at the tip here. They're bright red and orange, and they hang in clusters on the tips of all the growing leaves on the small plant. And then we have a small flowered one that came from UC Santa Cruz Botanical Gardens. And this is actually not as showy, but the interesting thing about it is it's fragrant. And it actually smells like heliotrope. And I found it growing as a small hedge along a roadway at the gardens, and asked a curator there if I could have a cutting of it, and he generously gave me one and brought it home, and it's done quite well. We haven't really done much in terms of shaping it, in terms of its size, so it can be kept much lower than this. We've just let the plant do its thing, but with a little bit of encouragement, it can be kept much lower than this in a small container. And it has two flowering cycles it goes through in the spring forest. There's a first flush, everything goes by, and then another flush comes out. So it is seasonal in its blooming, but it's a delightful fragrance to it, the smell of heliotropes. In terms of growing Grevillea, there's a couple things you need to understand, and one is they don't like phosphorus, and they really don't like fertilizer. So very sparingly feed them, and if you are fertilizing them, make sure they get a fertilizer with very low phosphorus levels. It's kind of like the opposite of what we do for most plants, where we're fertilizing them all the time. These actually have a little sign on them, "Please do not fertilize me." And once a year, we'll go around with a phosphorus-free fertilizer and give them a drink of it. And that's all they need, and they literally thrive here at Logie's. There also are very few insects that bother them. As long as we give them a little bit of dryness between watering, we do not have any problems with root rot. So what is the big limitation? Basically, it's sunlight. You have to have some direct sun on them sometime during the day in order for them to come into flower and grow well. We also can grow them at cold temperatures, although they will take it warmer. This house that we're growing them in right here goes down into the 40s at night, and we can grow them even lower than that if it's necessary. They can take it down to freezing or just above. They take very well to pruning. As I mentioned, this could be literally cut down, and I do it today, but I want to get the cuttings off of it. But it could be cut down to this low or even lower than that, and this would be the time. As soon as this is out of bloom, you want to do all your pruning so that they have time to regrow in the summertime. As they grow in late summer, that's when the flowers are forming, even though we don't see them on the new growth. And then it stops as it goes into a period of rest and slows down, and then the blooms come out. And the same with this here, although this flowers year-round. There is a lull that happens when there's very few blooms on it, and that would be in late summer as we go into fall, and then wintertime, and then in springtime, of course. All of that energy that was going into these young tips is turned into flowers. So Grevilleas are really one of my favorite flowering plants, and I'm really in my glory when I'm caring for them and cultivating them. If you'd like more information, visit us at logies.com.